Good news, you guys. It's Mrs. Klein.
Hey, baby cakes. It's Mrs. Wilbren. And we are here with your second podcast for Lesson 16, Life in the West. Your guiding question: what were the motives, hardships, and legacies of the groups that moved west in the 1800s? Your vocab is showing right now. Make sure to read that over and know these terms.
All right, so the first group of people that we're going to talk about now, you guys, are the mountain men. The Lewis and Clark expedition stimulated new interest in an old industry, the fur trade. Inspired by the explorers' reports of finding beaver in the Rockies, a Spanish trader named Manuel Lisa followed their route west. In 1807, Lisa led 42 trappers up the Missouri River, and the following year, he took 350 trappers into the Rockies. For the next 30 years, trappers crisscrossed the West in search of valuable furs.
Yes. Okay, the trapper's life. The trappers, who were also called mountain men, lived hard and usually died young. Fur thieves, Indians, wolves, and bears attacked them. Mountain man Hugh Glass, for example, was mauled by a mother bear that threw chunks of his flesh to her hungry cubs before friends could rescue him.
Dang, that's pretty gross. All right, but pretty cool. All right, accidents were common too. Additionally, disease took a heavy toll. Trappers braved this dangerous and violent way of life because the freedom and the adventure that it offered, though.
Yeah. And you remember, we've talked about this before, the number of calories that these men needed to consume to operate day to day. It was huge. Okay. So their legacy, the mountain men's legacy. In their search for furs, the mountain men explored most of the West, and the routes they pioneered across mountains and deserts became the Oregon and California trails.
All right, a surprising number of mountain men left another kind of legacy: personal journals. Their stories still have the power to make us laugh and cry, and to wonder how they lived long enough to tell their tales, being mauled to death by a bear. There's another one we learn about later, right? Jim Beckworth, doesn't he sew his ear back on his head because the bear ripped it off?
Yeah.
I think
so.
Or
was that Jedediah Smith?
It was Jedediah Smith. That's who it was. Jedediah Smith. Yes. He gets his head in the bear's mouth, and he has to sew his own ear back on, or his friend sew his ear on.
Video of that too.
We do. All right.
Okay. The missionaries, guys. This is a fun chapter.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let's see. So the Nez Perce asked if someone would come west to teach their people the secrets of the Black Book, or Bible.
And several missionaries answered that call, including Marcus and Narcissa Whitman and Henry and Eliza Spalding, who were among the best known. In 1836, both couples traveled west from St. Louis along the Oregon Trail.
Neither couple knew very much about the people they hoped to convert, which resulted in a difficult start. After 3 years, the Spaldings finally made their first converts.
Okay. The Whitmans were less successful, as the Cayuse, that's the Native American group they were working with, were far more interested in the whites' weapons and tools than in their religion. So not a single Cayuse converted to the new faith.
Yeah. Marcus Whitman was far more successful at converting Americans over to the belief that Oregon was a pioneer's paradise. Our greatest work is to aid the white settlement of this country and help to found its religious institutions.
All right, along the Oregon Trail, more settlers soon followed. The poor Indians are amazed at the overwhelming number of Americans coming into the country, observed Narcissa Whitman.
Yeah, and in 1847, measles came west with settlers and swept through the Whitman mission. Rumors spread that the Whitman were giving deadly pills to Indians, and the Cayuse Indians attacked the mission, killing both Marcus and Narcissa.
Dang. Okay. All right. Now, as far as the legacy of the missionaries is that, unfortunately for the missionaries, relatively few Indians actually became Christians. Many, however, died of the diseases that came with the missionaries instead. The missionaries' true legacy was to open up the West to further settlement, however.
Okay, the next group that we're going to talk about are the pioneer women. Women pioneers shared in the danger and the work of settling the West. Between 1840 and 1869, about 350,000 people traveled west in covered wagons.
God, that's a lot of people, and it's a long distance. The journey west lasted 4 to 6 months, and it covered about 2,000 miles. And women were expected to do the work they had done back home, like cooking, washing clothes, and caring for children, but while traveling 15 to 20 miles a day.
Yeah. The daily drudgery wore many women down. For example, Lavinia Porter recalled, I would throw myself down on the unfriendly desert and give way like a child to sobs and tears.
And you guys remember we learned when we're talking about the Oregon Trail, lots of ladies were actually pregnant along this journey, and they were giving birth to their children along the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
All right, the death toll on the trail was high, with disease being the worst killer. Accidents were also common, and people drowned crossing rivers. Indian attacks were rare, but the prospect of them added to the sense of danger.
Yeah. Some had almost frozen to death in the mountains or died of thirst in the deserts. One group of pioneer women, African Americans, who had escaped from slave states or who were brought west by their owners, faced a unique danger. Even though slavery was outlawed in most of the West, bounty hunters were often able to track down fugitive slaves.
All right, women did set things going once they reached the West. Wherever they settled, they established schools, churches, libraries, literary societies, and charitable groups.
Okay. The freedom and sense of equality enjoyed by women in the West helped pave the way for more equal treatment of women throughout the United States. This was perhaps the greatest legacy of the women pioneers.
All right, you guys. So first we learned a little bit about the mountain men. They were after valuable beaver furs and a life of freedom and adventure, and that attracted fur trappers to the West. Many of these hardy mountain men stayed on as scouts, guides, and traders.
Yeah. Then we talked about the missionaries. People traveled to Oregon and other Western territories in hopes of converting Indians to Christianity. Although they made few converts, the missionaries attracted other settlers to the West.
All right, and the pioneer women. Many women pioneers sought new opportunities in the West. Besides working to establish homes and farms, women often brought education and culture to new settlements.
Yeah, and with that, I'm taken off.
All right, you guys, word.